Bienvenidos amigos, I'm Martin Amara. Our show is called Jalisco Living, and it's all about feeling at home in this Mexican state. From the capital Guadalajara in the east to coastal life in the west, Jalisco can be an intoxicating and for transplants occasionally bewildering place to enjoy life. It's an economic powerhouse, endlessly fascinating, ever-changing, and with a diverse population that is so rich in cultural traditions, the state adopted as their motto, Jalisco is Mexico. With so much to show and tell, where do we start? Well, in this first episode, we visit the experts in what just might be the world's biggest international retirement community, right here on the banks of Lake Chapala. If you already live Lakeside, you might be a fan of a local business or organization that deserves to be promoted in a future episode of our show. If you like this video and subscribe to our channel, with that kind of support, we can make more content. This state has 7 of Mexico's pueblos mágicos, small towns recognized and loved for their historical and cultural importance, but also because, well, they just feel magical. Lakeside is home to one of them, and it's our first stop.
I've basically been focused on doing one thing, and that's training travel agents about Mexico. You know, moving to Mexico should be about transformation because there are so many ways here to reinvent yourself. I've lived here for 7 years. I was checking on Airbnb one day, and I noticed they have something called experiences. But when you look in the Ajijic area, there were no experiences being offered whatsoever. Americans and Canadians have been living here since the 1930s and 40s. And so I decided there's a real story to tell. We try and combine some contemporary issues related to the realities of living in Mexico, some of the truths and myths. Probably the smallest town in Mexico that has its own dilderia. So I talk about how this unique space has evolved, especially in the 20th and 21st century. Mexico is now the largest country in the world that has decriminalized cannabis. And we've most certainly had impacts here, and many of those have been very positive, some of them not so positive. If you can support these kind of businesses, it keeps the corporate world out of a 16th century colonial town. I try and give people a broader understanding of how this village came to be and how it is really unique in the Western Hemisphere. Got a great idea. Human heads on the side of the school. Stages of the cross. Catholic. I need a Catholic. Where's a Catholic?
Stations.
Thank you. Stations of the cross. This place has been inhabited for some 13,000 years. It was a colonial city founded in 1531, but yet it's also been a magnet for people who are looking to live overseas. Choosing Mexico was started in 2007, and the goal then was to talk about second homes in Mexico. The model migrated to talking to Americans about actually moving to Mexico. People are not just retiring, they're actually starting the last third of their lives in many cases, and they're looking to reinvent, to rewire, and they're looking for destinations that really can be transformational.
For decades, Lakeside restaurateurs have been serving French, Italian and Asian cuisine, lots of traditional Mexican, of course, and delicious fresh-baked bread and goodies served up with the coffee this country is famous for. And because the weather is amazing day after day, in a lot of restaurants, it's all served al fresco. But we were invited to one that is special for other reasons.
Bistro 12 is a restaurant that serves a 7-course degustation. Okay, so this is the canapé to start with. Bon appetit. After college, I moved to New York and I started working towards an acting profession. And so I chose to work in a restaurant. And I was lucky to be with some of the highest rated chefs in New York City. And by coincidence, they were all French. And it's the cuisine that I became the closest to. I like to have an experience in eating of different flavors in 7 different courses that I know has brought a lot of pleasure to our clientele. Most of the people who come here are Epicureans, wine lovers, gourmands, you know, they abound here. We take reservations only, no walk-ins. By reserving, calling in that day, I know there are 10 people, so I buy food for 10 people. Today, I made you a shrimp bisque. So what I do is use all the peels and make a broth that comes out really rich. Since we're a green restaurant, in which means that we don't waste a lot of food like a lot of other places do. We are located 2 blocks from the Centro Chapala, from the municipal building. How you'll know us is by the red, white, and blue on the front and the French flag that flies when we're here. We serve only 12 to 14 people at any time to have the highest quality that we can. Every dish is paid attention to, every detail, and I get to really focus on having that number of dishes come out the way they ought to come out.
Tempted to move here? There's a lot of advice out there on how to do that. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the most helpful can come from folks working in real estate.
I am an international consultant that specializes in real estate and wellness lifestyle. I help guide my clients with their home and life transitions. Anything from selling their home wherever they may be to helping them find a home here, relocation services, their immigration status. There are many reasons why so many people are relocating to the Lakeside area. The cost of living. We are conveniently located close to the airport and 2 hours from the United States. It's the second best climate in the world, average about 78 degrees, so that affords us a very active outdoor lifestyle. Another reason is the culture. Mexicans are so rich in their traditions and their customs. There's always a holiday or a festival going on, so it's a lot of fun to be here. There's hundreds of restaurants here, so I don't think I cook as much now because we're always looking forward to eating at one of the local restaurants, and it's very affordable and it's delicious. I think before people move to Mexico, they should ask themselves why. It's a big move, and this may not be a place for everybody, and some people come with their ideas from wherever they're moving from, and they try to compare it. So number one, why do you want to move here? And the second question I would ask is, what is your financial situation? Do you maybe have a financial planner you can consult with? In our case, we put together a spreadsheet with our expenses and our income to see if we could afford to move and retire if we wanted to. The next question I would ask is, what is the timeline? What is the roadmap for you moving here? I really highly recommend that people come visit, stay a while, and experience the lives in different villages. And then maybe they might want to rent at first. And that's something we, of course, can help them with.
More people than ever are working remotely, and some have decided an international lifestyle is right for them. So while the average foreign resident at Lakeside is still a retiree, the population is getting younger. But would you raise your children here? Well, there are lots of wide open spaces and recreational options. It's multicultural, and for the most part, families feel safe. What if the kids haven't grown up speaking Spanish? What are their options for getting an international education?
We originally opened the International Institute with the International Baccalaureate program in mind. We wanted to provide an educational preparation in this area that would allow students to be competitive on a world stage.
If you have the IB diploma, this means you have the same knowledge as a student that comes from Europe, Germany, China, or India, wherever. We are a small community, we're a small school, we don't have many students, but they know each other very well. So this became like a little family to them. The kids are really friendly, they are really respectful, even with kids that came from other countries. It's not just about academics, it's also about development for the student. They have to understand the problem and try to solve it, and also reflect on that for their future. I've been teaching for 8 years in the school, and I don't think I can go back to a school where there's no IB diploma, because you grow as a teacher.
You don't have to be bilingual. You're gonna have the Notion program, you have the Spanish part, and you have the English part. My daughter and my 2 sons, they're studying here.
You can expect to get more personalized classes for your kids. We work with the objectives of the UN. That means that every month we have a challenge where the kids focus in a global problem.
The beauty of our setting has a calming effect on our entire population, on our students, on our parents, on our teaching staff. You can see the lake from every direction.
I finished second grade. I'm 8 years old, and I enjoy a lot of my classes, my classmates, the garden, the space.
I did the IB diploma. I actually got it. It was a little bit challenging. I think it's something that everyone should do if they have the opportunity.
In the first half of the year, the graduates from the previous year come back and talk to our high school teachers, and the story is always the same. My first year has been a piece of cake.
Like the show so far? If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe to support the creation of more content like this and to get notified when we publish it. Let's say you found an international school for your children and the whole family feels good about that. What else does Lakeside have to offer a teenager? We met one who has no trouble keeping himself busy at a much-loved little theater company.
Okay, we've got that.
I'm 19 years old. I'm from Chile, but I came to Mexico with my family about 10 years ago. I'm living in Ajijic. I met LLT just a few months ago. It's been a great place to start professional theater.
The community loves the theater here, and they support it willingly, openly, and very generously.
One of the challenges that I think the theater faces is resources. Trying to make sure that we have people who want to act, want to direct, want to be working backstage, want to be helping front of house. A big need is technical. And there's so many new people coming to town, so it's making sure that they also find out about Lakeside Little Theater. For the auditions, actually, I'm really pleased to say that many times we have newcomers. Right now we've got this 10-minute play festival, and there are several people who have never been on our stage before.
I had only been here about a year, and I had heard that Barbara Clippinger was going to be doing Nonsense, and that she'd be looking for actors who could sing or singers who could act. And I said, well, that's me.
I was in my first play in 1985 before we had this theater, and I've been in 34 other shows since that show in 1985. I've worked backstage, I've been on the board, I've been production manager.
LLT has a very long history of producing outstanding comedies, dramas, and musicals. This year, we're going to try something new and different and produce our first Shakespeare play.
Somebody wanted to get involved in the theater, I'd say, come on out, because we're more than willing to train you, we're more than willing to give you the opportunities. Audition for any role. Who knows, you might get the leading role. A few years ago, we had a young girl that came, and she was Liza Doolittle.
The number of civic clubs and charitable organizations at Lakeside is impressive. Next, we'll visit one of the most established for a look at one of the many programs they provide to the international and local community.
The Lake Chapala Society has been around for, a good 60 years. It's done some good work for the community. It served as a good resource for expats who come here. It was founded by a group of expats.
For me, integration is that if you are from another country and come here, you have to forget your language and your traditions and customs and adapt to the ones that you find where you go, and that doesn't bring richness to the communities. Our slogan is people helping people, so we focus on that. We don't leave anybody outside. We try to embrace them. We have the Mexican Advisory Council. They work to advise us on how to create these programs and how to run them to help the local community. And we have, of course, the board here at LCS that most of them are foreigners right now, but we have Mexicans involved too. We try to work with everybody.
Neil James started the program back in 1954.
I came out from this program, the Children's Art Program of Lake Chapala Society, when I was a child, 10 years old.
The kids wanted to paint, they wanted to draw, but she had them read for 20 minutes each day. The importance of the Children's Art Program is that it gives kids something to do that's fun on Saturday mornings.
I'm an artist of Ajijic, and I have a gallery. I paint murals. Right now I'm in charge of one of the art classes, which is acrylic. I'm helping the children to become artists.
It gives them a sense of purpose and confidence. When a child shows talent, we really encourage them. We give them better materials. We produce cards from their work, and they get paid half of the proceeds. So to see a child's face the first time they sell a piece of art,
I feel that we get more from the children that we give them to the children. They are very open-minded, so you learn new things just by watching what they're doing.
Today I'm painting and drawing. I also take art classes at school.
Esta es mi primera vez viniendo. Tengo varios años viniendo y hay diferentes talleres. Me he metido en acrílico, en joyería y es mi segundo año que me meto en mosaico.
if the kids graduate or move on to university, they can get help from LCS. When you have some 75 kids and it's quiet while they're working, it's pretty amazing.
This lakeside town has a long history of supporting young artists, and some grew up literally making their mark on Ajijic. Next, we're going to meet one, a local luminary whose public murals and work with children have made him, in the eyes of some art lovers, a hero.
I've been always surrounded by art. I always had teachers, one way or another. People influence what I've been doing in my life. I quit art school and I went on my own. I studied a lot. I looked at books, I looked at movies, and I went and visited friends' studios and tried to learn from each one of them. And then I started to do a lot of public art. It just comes easy for me to go and talk to galleries or communities or people that own property and ask them to give me the opportunity to create what I do. I had this experience in Lagos de Moreno, which is a city 2.5 hours from here, still in the state of Jalisco. I saw a museum there by a friend, a maestro that I always admired, and I thought, why don't we have a museum in Ajijic? And I started talking to my wife, and I started talking to my children, and we all agreed to do it. And we have now over 300 pieces that are part of the permanent collection of the Ajijic Museo de Arte. Many pieces are on loan. That doesn't include, the 300 that we own. They want to sell pieces to us. We buy some pieces, but we don't really have that much money to do it. We have enough to change the collection of the whole space 4 times per year. Now we have 6 showrooms that are in the museum and a gallery space. When we finally include the other space to the museum, we will have 10 showrooms. We are also planning to do interviews with artists that are older, that are dying because of nature. We don't want to later be trying to create a story around them. We want to capture their story with their own voice. So that is the plan. It won't be easy. We knew that. I knew that from the very beginning. But it doesn't matter. We'll make it hard.
This is Ajijic's main square, probably the most popular place in town to meet for a drink or a meal and to sit and try and pick out the newcomers. When you're ready to walk off your plate of enchiladas, just a few steps away is the Malecon with its views of the lake. But if you're in the mood for an afternoon where you can eat, drink, and play, there's a place where you can do all three.
I wanted to bring people together, have a community built based on the fundamentals of activity, sports, food, basically all of my passions. And I wanted to be inclusive of everyone, where people can come together to meet each other, whether they already know each other or a lot of single people come here and meet new people. I get people who are traveling through or just traveling to know Ajijic some more. It's kind of like your one-stop shop. You can get some information, you can have a drink, you can get some food, you can get some sports in, some games, some music, and maybe if you're lucky too, you'll meet some new friends as well. We do live music 3 days a week. We do lots of pickleball. That's a big one for us. On Mondays, I do a drop-in pickleball clinic.
I think a lot of people come to pickleball from tennis. And maybe they got tired of chasing the ball. It's a smaller court.
I come to Mel's for 30 peso margaritas, to play lots of pickleball, and because it's just all around good fun here.
I started and I found the scene to be very welcoming. a lot of people in the same boat, a lot of people starting out.
And we also do aquasize on Mondays as well, and that starts at 3 o'clock. Who comes to Mel's? Who doesn't come to Mel's?
It's a very nice atmosphere. There's a lot of things to do here, the different games that they have, and the people are great.
My friends were playing pickleball and they asked me to come. And first time I came, I was very impressed.
Often I get told, we love coming to Mel's because I can bring my dog here and let it run around freely, and it's making other dog friends. In the daytime, we tend to be a little bit quieter, so it's a really good opportunity for people too who work remotely.
If we're being honest, we have to admit a lot of people move here because the cost of living in Mexico allows them a quality of life they couldn't afford back home. But there's a whole lot of people involved with organizations and activities that give back to the community.
Niños Incapacitados was founded in 1974, and since that time we have provided quality medical care to the children of Lakeside. We take in children to our organization from the ages of birth to 18, from families who cannot afford medical care for them. We provide them with the best medical care that we can acquire.
Le diagnosticaron una enfermedad que se llama braquicefalia, que necesitó un casquito porque él tenía una bolita en su cabeza. Ese tratamiento me tuvieron que mandar hasta México. 7 meses con su casco, mejoró, y gracias también a ProNiños que nos ayudó mucho con los gastos porque sí fueron muy pesados.
About 20% of our funding comes from events that we hold. Other funding that we receive are from very generous donors. We also have a legacy giving program, so when someone passes away, we know that they have left us money.
I'm a volunteer that works directly with the families, processing their invoices for any medical costs that we cover. I always had this intention to work as a volunteer when I retired in Mexico. This case particularly important because we're dealing with children with serious illnesses from very humble families. Many of us are grandparents and many of us are grandparents wannabes because I'm not there yet. And this is an opportunity to work with children.
Tiene 4 años y aún no hablan. Asiste a 2 terapias, la de lenguaje y la otra de psicología. Ahora con las terapias está un poco mejor. Había veces que la verdad que no podía asistir por lo de la gasolina o porque simplemente no se tenía el dinero para pagar la terapia. En mi casa me decían, pues si no se puede, no lo lleves. Y yo decía, pero es que ya va mejorando. Si lo dejamos, otra vez se va a ir para atrás. Ahora sí podemos pues llevarlo a sus terapias, comprarle su medicamento, porque a veces no teníamos para comprar. Hay uno que nos cuesta casi 2,000 pesos y eso es lo que gana mi esposo. Entonces comprábamos el medicamento o comíamos los 15 días.
It's one of the most significant jobs I've done in my life. I've been into teaching, translating, doing many different things. If you care about children and if you are determined to make changes, you have to have a good attitude towards communication with the parents. We're sometimes the shoulder they cry on, and sometimes we are ready to applaud all the fantastic successes that they have.
Pertenezco aquí al programa por niños. Tengo ya 9 años. Primero, como mamá de un niño con capacidades especiales, el cual pues necesitaba muchos cuidados y que gracias aquí a esta fundación me dieron la oportunidad de darle una mejor calidad de vida. Mi niño falleció, me quedé aquí como voluntaria, lo cual la verdad me da una felicidad muy grande que me hayan dado esa gran oportunidad.
We work all our lives. We come here to retire, and we come into a community where there is a lot of need. You go home and you see what we have. It's just incredible. It's very powerful, the giving back.
I'm one of 45 volunteers here at Lucky Dog Rescue and Adoption. The Mexican culture itself hasn't really embraced sterilization of pets. So that leads to a lot of unwanted puppies and a lot of abandoned dogs. When they first get here, we always put them into quarantine for the first couple of weeks just to make sure they don't have any diseases that could be contagious to the other dogs here. But then we take them to a vet. If there's anything wrong, we get meds for them. We get all of our funds from donations. Some people will sponsor a dog for 1, 2, 3 months. A volunteer has many duties, most of which are walking the dogs. There's about a 1-mile loop here. But there's also feeding the puppies, giving them meds, giving them baths, socializing them. There's also another group that has a converted school bus, and they drive dogs from here to across the border.
There's so many street dogs, dogs injured, dogs abandoned, and the need is just so constant. The bus is a 38-foot, made in 2017, so it's fairly new. This is the only bus that is here in Mexico, and it's actually available to any dog organization. We go north to the border at Nogales. That takes about 20 to 24 hours of drive time. Customs is a really big issue for this endeavor.
Mi rol aquí es inspección de veterinaria para los perros de nuestro refugio, de SOS Chapala Dog Rescue. Venimos de voluntarios. Poder viajar tiene que tener su protocolo completo clínico, veterinario, vacunación, desparasitación, es un microchip si es necesario que lo piden en el norte.
This time we're going to go through California. It's about a 2.5-day trip if we do it as quickly as possible.
I work with SOS Chapala Dog Rescue. This is Gigi. She is part Chihuahua. She came to the shelter with 4 little puppies. The puppies have all gone north already, so now it's her turn.
We've got 14 dogs going north today, and it's just a really exciting day. This is what we work for.
Yo tengo 2 trabajos. Trabajo como guardia de seguridad en las noches. En el día me dedico a limpiar casas para poder, pues de alguna manera sacar adelante los gastos de mis perritos. Nosotros nos hemos hecho rescatista a base de la falta de irresponsabilidad de las instituciones que tenemos, porque no quieren rescatar, porque se les hace difícil mantenerlos. Lamentablemente tenemos que tocar puertas extranjeras para poder ayudarnos en esta, como nos llaman, locos por rescatar perritos de las calles. Cuando los encuentro malheridos y veo en sus ojos esa necesidad, yo les hago una promesa. Siempre les digo que tarde o temprano les voy a encontrar un hogar, una familia que los va a querer, que los va a respetar, que les va a dar la dignidad que nosotros los mexicanos les negamos.
Anyone considering leaving the comfort of home, especially to live in another country, surely has this question at or near the top of their list. What medical care will I have access to?
Ribera Medical Center is the only hospital here in Lakeside that provides concierge medicine. Concierge services really means that someone is going to be there start to finish to explain medical procedures. The typical person who comes to Lakeside is educated and they require more information than perhaps another hospital might be able to provide. If a patient has a very simple problem, but it turns into something more serious, you can count on those services being addressed. We are fully equipped to deal with traumas and complications. Procedures and surgeries such as endoscopies, colonoscopies, heart ablations, any cardiac care or gastro care, or things that require surgery for cancer. But also, one of the things is to address people who are healthy. Aesthetic medicine has advanced so much in the past 2 decades. We offer non-surgical techniques to lift and tighten skin. Fixed incomes is very common here. There are a lot of places, Lakeside, where prices seem standard, and we try to meet that or even go below. The ambulance can bring the patient straight into the trauma bay. We have emergency physicians on site. The most important thing is how much will the patient communicate with their healthcare provider? Will we know how to ask questions to the patient? Will we know when the patient responds? And if we have all of the components we need to find out and figure out their puzzle, they're going to have a better outcome.
Some of the best weather in the world and an active lifestyle just might help keep you healthy long past the day you retire. But for some, a time will come when independent living is no longer possible. And what about those already at that stage, but still living north of the border, where finding affordable assisted living can be scary? Is Jalisco, or even Mexico, a smart option?
The life and care at the facility is very individualized. We've had primarily Europeans here.
I was living in America for a while. My country of origin, of course, but you can tell by my language, is England. So I'm quite a long way away from home.
The quality of medical attention that you get now in Mexico is extraordinary. There are so many great nurses and doctors.
Second best weather in the world, and cost is much lower than in their home countries. People with mobility issues maybe need help dressing, showering, those kinds of things.
I think it's wonderful to be next to the lake. I walk there every day.
I love to come visit my mom here and sit in the garden overlooking the lake, drink coffee together. I take her out almost every time I come, and we go very close by to a boardwalk along the water.
You can either have a very boring long day and do nothing, or you can do what I like, and that is go out.
There's a group of expats who meet regularly, and so we often take our residents there.
If I was comparing El Chante to assisted living facilities here, I couldn't recommend it highly enough, and I would feel the same way if I were comparing it to an assisted living facility in the United States.
We want them to have great nutrition. We want them to feel they have a good nurse. We have a doctor on call who'll be here in a moment's notice. But most of all, and I have goosebumps thinking about it, they feel loved.
My husband say they are my grandpas and they're loud.
I feel the quality of care is better because of how Mexican people feel about their own elderly. They are much more compassionate about caring for the elderly, have much more patience.
We could have rented a place that would accommodate a lot more people.
We know what kind of bread, we know how they like the egg.
I think it's a really great location for memory care because it's very secure. Nobody can get on or off the property without one of us knowing. In Canada or America or Europe, you might come in at entry-level assisted living, and then as you get more ill, you may be moved to a nursing home. Maybe you start having memory issues, then you're moved again. Then let's say you're starting to get ill and you need palliative care, you move again. In Mexico, all of the care homes that I know about take people through all of those stages. We have hospital beds if needed. We've had 5 clients pass with us in the last 5 years. Some have died in my arms. And it's not sad for me, and it's not sad for them because we've had a chance to really talk about. It's just a transition. They're just moving to a different place. None of us know where or what.
At first it depressed me to think that I never will be back home, but this has become more of a home now, and I'm not frightened about that.
That ends our first episode of Jalisco Living. If you'd like to get a heads up when the next one comes out, or appear in an upcoming show to promote your business, or show us your butterfly collection, visit JaliscoLiving.com. And one last time, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button below and subscribe to our channel. Hasta luego.